Finally, summer has also come. Today, I want to make a movie with a summer theme: ocean waves. As a work about student love, Ocean Waves brings quiet moments for the audience to immerse in tender and poetic emotions when reminiscing about each person's beautiful youth. Umi Jie Kakuru is an anime film by Studio Ghibli directed by Tomomi Mochizuki and written by Nakamura Kaori. The film is adapted from the typical novel I Can Hear the Sea by Himuro Seko. Studio Ghibli let the youngest staff in the studio make this film with the intention of letting them gain experience, and of course this studio did not invest a lot of money. However, the budget exceeded the plan and time that took longer than expected. But it doesn't matter, that Ocean Waves will be a beautiful morning that will bring a little nostalgia and sighs to the viewers who don't have moments of nervousness in their teenage years. Ocean Waves is an emotional story about school age. Set in a high school in Kochi City, Shikoku, Japan, a small port town located on the seashore, peaceful and quiet. The film is a series of memoirs of student Taku Murasaki, revolving around a silent love triangle between him and his best friend Yutaka Matsuno. Both have feelings for the girl Muto Rikako, who moved from Tokyo to the Kochi countryside in the middle of the semester. Rikako and her sister moved from Tokyo to Kochi due to the divorce of Rikako's parents. With a quiet personality, it is difficult to get along, but plays sports well and studies well. So not only Murasaki and Matsuno, but also the whole school pays attention to Rikako. The opening of the footage is the scene where Taku accidentally encounters the love he has buried deep in his heart when the two accidentally stand at a Tokyo station. But unfortunately a train took Muto away. Taku at this time was still very surprised because he did not expect to meet her here. Then he got on the plane to fly back to Kochi, where he was born and raised, and he started to reminisce about the day he first met Muto. When Taku was a high school student, he worked part-time at a restaurant to earn extra income. Perhaps he didn't expect his best friend's phone call to lead him into a love triangle without him realizing it. His first impressions of Muto were that he was beautiful, talented, and didn't like to talk. Of course that's the type of girl everyone wouldn't like. Yes, his brother Yutaka liked Muto. Yutaka helped, taking care of everything for Muto, just waiting for her response. Until the school held a Hawaii picnic, suddenly Muto found Taku to talk to. The conversation goes straight to the point that Muto has lost money and needs to borrow money to pay for petty things. He seemed a bit alarmed at first because of Muto's loss of money, but then he still lent her money and promised not to tell anyone about it. But only a few seconds later, he told Yutaka again. So Yutaka found Muto and offered to lend her a loan. Muto is angry that Taku hasn't kept his promise, and she once again insists to him not to tell anyone about this. After that picnic, Muto had another friend, Yumi. One fine day Taku wondered if it was early spring and she still hadn't returned the money she borrowed. In order to get revenge on her, he brought back a photo that someone else took of Muto while wearing a bathing suit. His train of thought was interrupted by Yumi's phone call. We are at Kochi Airport and Muto wants to go back to Tokyo, but what does that have to do with him? Because the money he lent her she used to buy the plane ticket, so he was also responsible for that. He rushed to the airport and heard Yumi's plea for help. In the end, he decided to board the plane with Muto with a youthful impulsiveness. Perhaps he wouldn't have expected this decision to bring back memories of just him and her when he remembered Muto. He accidentally learns that Muto's parents are divorced and Muto is forced to follow his mother to Kochi to live through his mother's story. And now she is going to Tokyo to see her father. Muto told Taku a lot about Tokyo. When he got there, Muto accidentally or intentionally introduced his father to Taku as his boyfriend. Muto's father was very grateful that he took care of his daughter. He returned the money his daughter borrowed and rented a room for him to stay for 2 days. So, on the very evening of the first night, Muto ran to his room and knocked. When he opened the door, the first sound he heard was Muto's painful cry. Suddenly she rushed into his lap hoping for comfort. Taku was surprised, but still didn't push her away, just let her hug him and cry. Of course she would sleep in this room, so he had to go to the bath to sleep. The next morning, it seemed something had returned to its original trajectory. And Muto is going to meet his old friend again. It was her ex-boyfriend 1 to 2 months ago. But why drag him along? Not knowing how Taku was in a mood, impatient or bored, he spoke loudly to his friend. He then left to go back to his room. Not long after, Muto came back too, and she said something that made him sound surprised, and he wondered what's wrong with her. It's only been 1 hour without seeing him, but his words are so mature like an adult. So the 2-day trip in Tokyo ended in the silence of the two sides. Back in Kochi everything was normal, but Muto ignored him like the air. As usual, he and Yutaka went to the rooftop to find each other, and he accidentally learned that his Tokyo trip was already known to everyone and the narrator was none other than. Even more surprising was the news that Yutaka had confessed to Muto, but in response to him was her outright refusal with the very absurd reason that I don't like being here, so I don't like people with accents in Kochi. Then, she admits that Taku shared a room with her one night, making the misunderstanding even more confusing. Taku made an appointment to meet Muto alone to talk with the curious eyes watching them around. He raised his voice to Muto. She was very angry and slapped his left cheek with a slap, but now because he was so angry he couldn't control himself and slapped her back. Everyone almost held their breath because of what he did to Muto. Since then, people have almost isolated Muto. No one cares about her anymore. When the school held a festival, Taku accidentally caught a scene of a group of girls gathering to bully Muto. After the group left, he also pretended not to know and left quietly. Unfortunately, Muto caught him again, making the atmosphere awkward. Muto was very embarrassed and angry when he just stood and watched her being bullied. Without hesitation, she gave Taku a slap and left, leaving him to just watch. Not long after Yutaka arrived, Taku narrated everything to his friend when a punch landed on his right cheek. It was at this point that Taku realized that he had made a mistake and panicked a little. From that day on, he and Yutaka never spoke to each other until all three graduated from university. Everyone graduated from Kochi, but he took the entrance exam to a university in Tokyo. When he flew back from Tokyo to Kochi, He did not expect that the person who picked him up at the airport was Yutaka. The two talked to each other like old friends long after years of not talking. The two of them went to the reunion and expected the same figure to come, but the response was only disappointment. When they left, Taku's group of friends went through the lighted tower. Memories of Muto flashed through his mind. At this moment, Yumi suddenly said, "I have met Muto again. He said he is waiting for someone to come find me. That person likes to sleep in the bath." Hearing that, Taku suddenly burst out laughing. Now he realized that his decision to go to Tokyo at that time was the right one. The next day he returned to Tokyo, stood at the station to look for that figure. This time, God did not let him down. He had caught Muto. Suddenly the train she was going to board was about to arrive. Taku used all his strength to run to the opposite station with the aim of stopping her, so that she would not leave him. Then when he got there, that figure also disappeared. But then when he turned back 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, etc., Muto stood behind him with a friendly smile and finally greeted him. At this moment, his mood became more peaceful than ever, and most of all, now he knew, I love her more than ever. The film with the situations unfolding very naturally. And the way to remove misunderstandings is also gentle and profound, making viewers feel like a beautiful forgotten summer suddenly returned to joy, like the sound of a summer afternoon in the quiet countryside. The film comes from the summer, the friendship side. The love of school age has not dared to speak, as wide as the waves of the sea day and night wash ashore. The feelings between people are sometimes floating like on a wave, but sometimes they are as strong and eternal as the blue sea. 72 minutes of ocean waves pass quietly, leaving many emotions, making viewers reminisce about a time when they went to school, a budding love, but kept it hidden in their hearts. After all, I realized how precious those carefree students were. Sometimes I want to go back to that day to grow up more, to feel the diverse relationships around, to refine thoughts more carefully, and above all, to grow.